Hello, and welcome to CIO Leadership Live here in the ASEAN. My name is Chris Holmes, Editor-at-Large, and I'll be your host today. And I'm pleased to welcome Mel Bagrimo, Chairman and President of the Women in Security Alliance Philippines and former Group CSO for the largest power group in the Philippines, to discuss the role of security in the modern technology organization. Mel, welcome, and how are you this morning?
Hi, Chris. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be with you in this session.
Fantastic. So before we get started and into some of your thoughts around security in that modern technology organization, maybe you can just give us a little bit of background as to how you became a technology leader.
Oh, okay. So, well, actually, I started my career in the applications development team, Chris, wherein I assumed different roles. So, I started the role from being a BA, business analyst, and then I transitioned to a process quality assurance focused function, which primarily focused on really reviewing the design of the application. So, it doesn't only tackle about security per se, but it looks around performance, interoperability, user-friendliness, and many more. So these were mostly banking applications. And then after that, I transitioned to be a PM. So I led, software testing teams, development teams, and I think, during my last stint in the applications development was, I actually did a full-time head for software quality assurance. So after that, since I was already in the risk side of applications development, I came to the point that I wanted to try something, something new in the field of risk. And it was then the time when information security was starting to actually gain traction. Well, at least here in my country. So I guess that was like 15 years ago. So I think you can guess about my age. No, just kidding. And then, so after that, I actually joined an IT multinational company. So that was my first break to actually assume work around information security management system, wherein I led the ISMS audit team. And then from there, my role grew. So I also headed teams around ISMS implementation, contract compliance, as well as business continuity management teams. From there, I assumed different lead roles in information security, including business continuity, and I also spent some years around, around data privacy. So since I had I had been almost everywhere, right? I've been in the technology, financial as well, telco, power DU, retail energy, construction, logistics, and shared services. I opted to establish an advocacy on women empowerment and expand its focus on digital risk as well as personal development. So, so I decided to actually look at WISAP, full time, decided to grow this nonprofit, non-stock organization and build more alliances and programs that will support diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I think that's practically my career journey, Chris.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Mel. And I mean, again, maybe just give us a little bit of an overview as to how big WISAP is today.
Oh, okay. So for WISAP, actually, we have an almost 200 members. So we look at all the different focus areas around digital risk. So practically, it's not only cybersecurity. So we look at also business continuity risk, enterprise risk around enterprise management. We were able to build alliances around the defense area. Well, that one is already posted in WISAP and in my LinkedIn page. And we're also doing programs around giving back to the society. Well, don't get me wrong. WISAP is really about serving the society, but it's really more about, educating, giving back to the, I would say less fortunate. Yeah, something like that. And yes, so WISAP is also the Philippine representative, the Southeast Asia Cybersecurity Consortium, wherein we will have our formal MOU signing sometime next month.
Oh, that's
so
fantastic.
I think there's a lot of things going on. Yeah.
That's fantastic to hear. So again, very interesting in terms of sort of, your career and then, what you're doing with WeSap. So maybe you could just sort of share with us, your view on, where does security fit in the modern technology organization?
Okay, so I think for those organizations, right, who are really into establishing or strengthening their digital transformation journey, I think there are several ways to answer this question. Security is embedded in the different groups of the organization. It's not only within the technology teams, but also lies within the different support teams like HR, legal, of course, privacy, procurement, finance, and of course the business teams. Applicable security controls to protect data should be embedded on how they operate. So practically, it's really a journey around embracing the different cybersecurity controls, be it a technology control, be it a people control, or a process control. Now, on a structural level, security is represented in all levels, from the working teams going to the mid-level managers, right, senior managers, up to the executives and board. The security leaders are not only considered as, something like a subject matter expert, but they should be looked up as an executive who should be working hand in hand with the CIO as well as the other business leaders and supporting business leaders within an organization to actually ensure that security strategies and implementation tasks are neatly embedded in the different organization processes. So I think that's it.
Okay. And in fact, that's a really nice segue into the next question I want to ask you, because again, you came from a large energy provider, but the largest energy provider in the Philippines. And again, there was a lot of operational security, a lot of operational technology that needed to be protected during that. So maybe you could just give us a little bit of a rundown as to, how you structured that, how you organized that, because, in this era of digital transformation, certainly around operations, this sort of IT/OT agreement, alignment, but also the need to actually expand security across all of the OT devices is paramount.
Okay, so I think the adoption of security in OT has been a challenge as well, because as you know, operational the experts, right, or as well as the engineers within the operational technology, availability comes in foremost to them, which of course is very crucial. While in the context of the information security, availability is just one, and it should come in equal footing, right, when you talk about non-repudiation, confidentiality, integrity, right? So I think it's really more about an OT security adoption. You really need to look at that and its best practices. So I think one of the focus areas that they need to look at is they should be able to come up with an organizational strategy. So when we talk about organizational strategy, in the context of digital transformation, so this is when IT and OT convergence would actually come in. So they need to look at convergence from an organizational approach, wherein IT and OT teams have to begin working together, which means they need to spend more time sharing information and aligning efforts. And part of saying that is actually to align process and technology champions. So there has to be an appointment as well as alignment of expectations as well. They need to look at harmonizing teams by recognizing the strengths as well as identifying the areas for improvement of each focus area. On the context of organizational access, I think I've mentioned about harmonizing teams, right, exchanging information, but I think we should not forget the context around segregation of duties, right, and ensure access is granted based on the functions that each team should be able to perform. Hence, if you look at information sharing, appointing champions, aligning efforts. It's really about building cross-functional teams to make the IT and OT convergence a success. And then, of course, there has to be, effective management of the initiative on the program level, as well as regular alignment in terms of directions, going to your executive leadership. Now, on the logical side, of course, there has to be really an understanding on your end state, because your end state, so when we say end state, so there goes like what you want to do out of this IT and OT convergence, right? Is it really just about, making your customers happy? I'm pretty sure you also wanted to impact your bottom line. Right? So hence, you need to come up, you need to start conceptualizing what would be your set of requirements, and then coming up with your high level and your detailed architecture that surrounds around IoT or IIoT. And that would actually include your cybersecurity. You need also to employ on experts, right? You can engage also on third-party consultants as well, or experts to actually complement, because IT and OT convergence for the CI, for the critical industries, I think they came, I don't know if you agree with me, but to me, they came a bit late in the ballgame. Well, because it's not easy, it's not easy to start opening, like critical processes, like interconnections, right? With more third parties, with IT per se, right? I mean, they live for decades, following this and these protocols, but admittedly, most of those protocols would have weak encryption. You can launch several attacks, not to discount of the physical attacks that we know. And of course, I think part of the logical and your physical strategy is to apply appropriate physical security controls, right? Specifically, when you talk about your smart devices being deployed in the field. And then I think others would be around operational strategy. Operational strategy is really trying to operationalize or execute your different cybersecurity governance as well as IT governance controls. On top of it would be change management process. You need to look at metrics. You need to have your startup metrics. And then, of course, startup metrics you would need to increase the bar as you go along, right? So it couldn't be like, after 1 year or let's say 2 years, you're still at your startup metrics. You need to look and implement best practices around infrastructure management, infrastructure and application security, and leverage on behavioral patterns to identify system anomalies, which are very important. And of course, build the skills of your people. You need to continually build the skills of your people. And if you're looking at IT and OT convergence from a SOC perspective, you may also want to evolve your SOC, right? You may want to look at IoT SecOps. So not only your typical SOC, so maybe you also wanted to look at or coming up with a SOC that really caters for this IoT or IIoT infrastructure, because the skill set is also different.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to cover in that, but again, from what I'm picking up, I mean, the key thing is certainly getting that organization structure in place, and also getting people sort of agreed and that roadmap, that plan visible, so that again, there can be that sort of joint approach going forward.
Yep.
So, I mean, and it's a nice segue, Mel, as well into this sort of conversation as well around sort of the role of security and innovation, because again, we've been talking about this digital transformation that's been going on, and particularly in some of the more so shall we say industrial type of organizations, whether it be energy, manufacturing, mining, those type of organizations, as they're looking to embrace sort of industry 4.0 initiatives, as they're looking to try and change. And you talked about focusing on the bottom line, this drive for efficiency. We're seeing a much greater focus around automation, etc., coming in. So how do you actually manage that role of security in supporting these innovative use cases that are being developed across organizations?
Mm, well, I think, Chris, it all boils down to the mindset of the organization because when we talk about security and innovation, right, we talk about cloud, we talk about functions, containers, microservices. So, cloud has become the foundation for really launching new services, new technologies. So, as these new technologies are developed and adapted by the different organizations, they will increase the impact on cybersecurity. And by being well adept on cybersecurity, you can have a certain level of assurance. I would say full assurance, right? Because I think that would be a challenge to say. So you would have, I think, a good level of assurance, something like that, in taking full advantage of every technological initiative, right, or business technology initiative that will actually come out. The adoption of the Sec DevOps is, I would say, a step change from the from the old concept of the DevOps model, right? So with this approach, you engage security at the very start of your development processes and of course during production as well. So this strategy involves outlining of your different cybersecurity practices early on and embedding secure code into your development lifecycle.
Very interesting, and some good guidance there. And again, this brings me into, if you like, our final part of the conversation today. I mean, we're seeing a lot of focus now on this idea around the transformative CIO, but we're also starting to see this need for the transformative CSO as well. So again, in order to sort of push forward with this, what does that transformative CSO look like? You know, what are the leadership traits? What's the process? What's the ownership that's actually involved in actually getting this person to be sort of, you know, front and center in actually supporting the organization's drive to change?
Well, transformative CSO or the transformative CISO. Okay, so I think it. He or she is a business leader. Well, he or she thinks about cyber as a board agenda and a critical risk that can hamper in achieving business resilience when not properly planned and managed. Also, to me, a transformative or transformational CISO is someone who thinks of business first and how security will be embedded to maximize its full benefits. So, let me explain that a bit. To be a transformative CSO is someone who doesn't really follow the checklist. This person looks at frameworks, methodologies, of course, but will do a lot of tailor fitting. And let's say if you talk about your sprints, right? I think this person will not push all cyber controls per sprint, but this person will try to look at things logically and then identify where to push your cyber controls, when not to say no, when to negotiate, when to say yes, go ahead. Right? And I think in terms of from a process perspective, this security leader leverages on automation and enabling technologies. Well, to help bridge the resources gap that that has been around, and I think it has been a talk not only within Asia Pac, right, but it's really a global agenda on cybersecurity. And then someone who actually takes responsibility and accountability, but will not actually drive alone, but he or she would actually involve the other executives, the leadership team in terms of planning, executing. So thus making cybersecurity as an enabler of growth.
That's great. That's great. So the transformative CISO is going to be that enabler of growth. Is going to be someone who's actually going to be partnering with the business, engaging with the rest of the technology organization, and actually ensuring that that security is embedded as we actually move forward in terms of actually developing these new use cases and these new innovative product solutions and services.
Yep.
That's fantastic, Mel. Listen, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your journey, your career steps, and also your views on where security fits in the modern technology organization, and again, how to be transformative from a security perspective. Thanks everybody for watching this. I've been talking to Mel Magrino. I'm Chris Holmes, Editor-at-Large for CIO. If anybody has got any questions or comments on our conversation today, please reach out to me on LinkedIn.